From this to this. Follow this video with me as I present the procedure to achieve this result. The first step is to create a level design document, since this scene will be used for a game. Let's immediately prepare the scene by creating the necessary lights, such as the directional light, the skylight, height fog, etc. I also create a solid plane that will define the surface where the character can move and jump. My idea is to create an ocean at night, a mystical and mysterious scene with various ruins of an ancient civilization. The character will be able to walk over the waves and must reach a very specific point in the map. Now I start designing the level using white cubes to create the entire path that I sketched in the level design document at the beginning of the video. The main building will be a tower, which the player will need to reach and then climb. Okay, now the lighting. By modifying various parameters, I aim to create ideal lighting for a night scene, and then apply a skybox featuring a large and prominent moon. Next, I adjust the parameters based on the sky's appearance, and voila! The lighting is almost complete. At this point, I add an ocean, keeping the waves calm and low. Now, for our game design choice, I place this asset to slow down the character if they don't stay on the designated path leading to the tower. These walls, on the other hand, define the explorable area. Here we are, the level design is complete. Now I can start focusing on the graphical aspect of the assets that will make up this scene. I've chosen to use a pack called Dark Ruins. I begin placing them on the map, aligning them with the shapes of the cubes previously positioned. This process is long and tiring, but I personally enjoy it because it allows me to add my own style to the level, even when using pre-made assets. Each structure represents an action that the player must learn to perform, such as jumping, running, and double jumping. For the final section, the player will have to climb the tower, which I will later modify to better fit our scene. Now, all the structures are in place, and at the end stands our imposing tower. The colors are very dark, but I'll think about that later. Let's talk about the long process of texturing or modifying textures to make the purchase models as personalized as possible. I decided to use a lighter color and a shader that enhanced the cartoon effect, creating a look reminiscent of traditional animation, with a clear and well-defined color gradient. The color is primarily divided into three parts: dark, medium, and light. As you can clearly see from the columns, or this window. I made slight modifications to the mesh components and added various elements outside the main path to give the scene a more complete feel. All the textures have been modified. And I also added lights that do not cast shadows to better illuminate certain areas. This is because the moon is visible behind the tower, making the entire path backlit. As you can see, every element has been modified in terms of textures. The tower has also been illuminated, and I added ivy to make it more visually interesting and to highlight the spot where it's possible to climb. I also applied the specific textures that took me a long time to perfect. The technique is called parallax occlusion mapping. I wanted the walls of the assets from Fab to have larger stone details, making the tower and structures appear cleaner and more elegant. Better for my stylistic vision. This part of the gameplay showcases the ivy and the climbing mechanics I managed to implement. The character's climbing animation is not final. Now let's move on to special effects, like fog. With this tool you can apply volumetric fog. Using this plugin, you can paint the fog, adding or removing it, or even directing its flow. I use this technique to highlight the path the player must follow to reach the tower. This effect truly enhances the mystical and mysterious atmosphere. I then use the brush tool to adjust the fog's direction. Additionally, I'll guide the player through level design, possibly by adding more energy recovery globes. I also place fog clouds behind the tower. These are simply distant images with slight modifications to include little movement. I then created volumetric clouds to give them more emphasis to the tower. I added extra fog to make the atmosphere even more magical near the tower, both to the left and the right. The clouds feature a dark side, a light side, and highlights to blend them well with the background. Okay, the scene is complete. It took me about 3 or 4 months of work, done in my free time. Keep in mind that I'd never used some of these tools, such as the focus system, but in the end it turned out to be quite simple and intuitive. The most time-consuming part of this scene, aside from composing all the assets, was finding the right balance between mesh detail, debris and model textures. I wanted the scene to convey the right feeling. The structures had to appear abandoned, yet well preserved, not too old or worn. So they retained a sense of elegance and majesty. And here we are at the end of this journey. Thank you so much for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel. Bye!